I just have one request for you. Will you do my funeral? I mean, first of all, you know more Yiddish than I do, okay? I'm married to a Catholic, and I'm listening to all of this Yiddish. You know, I don't hear this at home. So, you know, you'll give me a few other words also. But thank you all for coming. We were going to start out with our illustrious president of our New York Metro chapter, Matt, was going to give us some highlights for the Jets game, but unfortunately, there are never any highlights, are there?
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, no, I heard that you also were possibly committed child abuse. You took a kid for his first experience to a Jets game. Was that on? That's the problem with social media. We see all that stuff. So I have been in business for a little bit over 30 years. I was a group of people. I know I don't look it, but I am older than Michael Cervelli. I'm older than most people in this room, and I am one of several people that actually started in the event industry when there was no event industry. There was nothing. We didn't have BizBash. There was no social media. There wasn't an internet. There wasn't ILEA. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as an event industry. I started out, we were the graphic designers for Whitney Houston. And Whitney introduced us to a friend of hers that was getting married. We had never, to that point, had done a wedding invitation before. And her friend that was getting married was Eddie Murphy. And this is a true story. And it wound up being the largest wedding in the Pierre Hotel and in all of New York at that year. It was something like, it was a Thursday night, it was 1990, and it was something like a $1.2 million event. Now there are bar mitzvahs, there are birthday parties. I think Michael did a birthday party for more than that, you know. So, you know, times have changed, but we didn't have a community. Now we have one, and the importance of ILEA is, or for any of these chapters, is that I find that you should use your local chapter as a base. Get to know everybody within the chapter. A lot of people feel that the only clients that they're going to get are through event planners. They immediately think, well, who are the planners in your organization? Those are the people I want to meet, but it's not true. You will meet by association through other people that do decor design, that are photographers. Don't discount anyone within your group. One of the biggest clients I ever got was because I had a side conversation with somebody at an ILEA function who is a photographer who I've never seen again. And he just walked up to me and said, "Do you do printing?" And I said, "Yeah, I do printing." He said, "Well, I have this guy, he needs business cards. I think you should talk to him." And it wound up being the country of Qatar, okay? And right now, it's one of my largest clients. So all I'm saying is that we never know where our next lead is coming from. Be kind to all of your coworkers, to all of the people in your industry. We all have to take a lot of abuse, unfortunately, at times from our clients. But we should never do that to each other, okay? So it's something that I feel is very, very important for us. Get to know everyone within your chapter, and then from that, when possible, branch out not only to other chapters, but branch out to other industry associations. Everything has value. A week ago Monday, I was with Michael, I think we were at an event for WIPA in New York, and it was on a Monday night. We had over 200 people there. And then on the other side of Manhattan, Coke was having an event, and they had over 200 people. So there's a lot of opportunities to meet people, to grow, to network with them. So use this as your base, get to know everyone, but from there, spread your wings, branch out, get to know a lot of other people, but take pride in the fact that this is your local chapter. In New York, I will be a member of the ILEA Metro chapter for life, okay? I always felt that this is my home base. It's Jennifer Claire Scott, and many other people that I've met by association have helped me grow as a person and as a business, and I'll always say, this is my home base, but this is, where I'm also going to use them to help grow and to meet other people. So that's what we do. In terms of, other things that are out there, what I do is I set up an organization called Nonprofits Night Out. Nonprofits Night Out is a free event. We do it twice a year. I just had it this week in Miami, where Michael loved my photograph. I think I was in the only pair of shorts I've ever worn in my life since I'm 10. We did a beach-themed attire. We do it in New York every January. All of you are invited to attend. It's free to everyone, and we don't charge vendors anything. What we do is we collectively gather people's skills together, and we put on a great event. And for people that are in the nonprofit industry, it gives them an opportunity to be celebrated and acknowledged, for them to meet other vendors that they might be able to work with. And also the venue does very well because they wound up booking galas from it. So, that's my big initiative right now, but it by no means is competing with ILEA. It's a free event, and ILEA is always where we started from. So that's, I just wanted to welcome you guys for the, your first event of the year. I'm honored that Lisa asked me to, to speak, and I just wanted to say hello to you. Does anyone have any questions who is not David Fletcher? I'm sure David will say something. Anyone have any questions or comments that they'd like to make? I see you put everybody to sleep. Okay, so, uh-oh, okay,
I
yes.
just want to say it's so nice to be able to put a name with a body, because I've heard of you forever.
Oh, thank you.
I've worked on things that you've worked on together, and I've never met you.
Well, thank you. My name is Michael Cervelli, for anybody.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
He actually has a Michael Cervelli suit.
I do. Michael felt that, what was the term you used, the schlub or schlemiel? Let's just say that, if I knew Michael was introducing me, I would have dressed better tonight. But Michael decided that to come into a room with him, I needed to have a suit that I looked like him. So he sent his tailor over to me. And of course, being that Michael is Italian, his tailor's name is Guido, so what would this stuff? The guy came in, he was a Jewish tailor, I would have sent him out the door. What can I say? But thank you very much for that, I appreciate the comment. Okay, so,
So, Steve,
yes.
you come from such a great business background, and I think that there is a confusion sometimes between sales and networking. Can you talk a little bit about, the difference in attending a networking event versus a direct sales pitch?
Well, sales is transactional. Networking is informative. It's two totally different things. I mean, when we're here, we're not selling, we're meeting. And the key for networking, and the reason it's so important in our world, is that you have to know somebody, like somebody, and trust somebody in order to do business with that person. If you're putting on an event and somebody doesn't show up for the event, or they underperform, it destroys your reputation. It kills the event. It could be a wedding, it could be a corporate or a nonprofit event. You really, trust is really the key word in our world. The other thing is, for all of you women in the audience, there was an article in Fast Company magazine last month that had the premise that networking doesn't work for women. And I really objected to that article. My wife brought it to me. My wife is an attorney, and she said, look, this is what people are saying. And, I read the article, and they were talking more about the legal field, and also they felt, finance, that men were a little bit more dominant. But we are in a female-dominated industry here. I mean, when I was at the WIPA event last Monday, I was at a table of 10. I was the only man there. So for all of you women in business, this is a great field to be in. We have not, within our entire world, we have not had one case of sexual harassment that I know of. We don't have what you see in other parts of different industries, but we really are a very, very strong world for people that are both individual entrepreneurs and women especially who are creative and entrepreneurial. So. Yes, Matt.
I sat in board meetings with you for 2 years, so can you discuss...
No. You didn't get it then, so what?
So Jennifer said you're very business-minded. Can you discuss what it's like to deal with creatives coming from your background?
So I have an MBA, which I don't use. I found it absolutely worthless, in this world. The hardest thing for all of us, and I think we could all agree, running a business is managing people, managing staff. I have a staff of about 30. Many of you also have, larger staffs. Working with clients is the easy part. We're going to have an emergency meeting at my company tomorrow at 12 o'clock where we're, shutting the phones down, and I'm bringing everybody in a room because somebody today in our office, and I wasn't even there, said something and acted in a way that that we all felt was professionally inappropriate. We have to address that. So, creative is different than, than standard business. It's not finance, it's a lot of feelings. Also, we're in a very, very high stress field, all of us. I'm sure all of you get these messages from people, I need something now, I need it yesterday, I need it in an hour, and it just builds and builds and builds. And I mean, I was in Miami this weekend, and somebody said, gee, it must be so much fun being in the event industry. And I just started laughing, and I said, you don't want to know. So I think we all have. That's why we drink, that's why we get together for events like this, we commiserate, we talk to people, and that's why we have to be nice to each other, because not everybody's nice to us. I don't want to be nice to you, Matt. Yes.
I have a question for advice for creatives. I run a legal, licensed, and insured tax-paying business that actually keeps the roof over my head and food on the table.
Okay.
I get asked all the time to work for exposure.
Mm-hmm.
People die of exposure.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, the thing about that is that if you're doing something for an industry event, I'd say once in a while you do it. But aside from that, unless something is a nonprofit that you want to donate your services to, people don't understand the value of what you're doing if you don't charge for it. I get that all the time as well. If there's one or two instances during the year, my partner's church, something I do, whatever, we'll donate. But sometimes we'll say we'll discount, okay, but we don't donate. So that would be my answer to you, because if you do that, you'll just be donating all day. You'll never, there's no value to the service if you're not charging for it. But people, I think, understand and will respect you more if you offer a discount and say, well, my regular price is X, but for this specific project, I'll do it for you for Y. And if they can't do it, you don't do it, So that's what I would suggest. Yes, sir.
What really important what Steve just said is, I think people undervalue what we do for a living.
Yeah.
The time, the hours, the energy. Steve, I see Steve does with nonprofit, but I just had a discussion with Jennifer Claire Scott tonight. We got a phone call on Saturday, and not even an urgent email. And the gentleman wanted us to be downtown Manhattan to do a site inspection for a job this morning, because they're on the UN. And I was going to charge for my services to go do the site inspection, and they refused to move forward. So it was my time worth it on a Saturday to go downtown to do this. All of you, charge for your service. This is what makes our industry stronger. This is what makes us industry professionals. And it keeps the business alive to say, wow, there's a value to that industry. Everybody thinks we're doing parties. We're not doing parties. We're doing events, and we're away from our families. We're here tonight with each other. We're away from our families. And when you discount, show them the discount. Put it in there. How many times they'll say courtesy pricing, and I'll list my price. I discounted this by $5,000, let's just say. Because the next year when they come back, and when you charge them now $10,000, but last year you charged me $5,000. But that was an opening. I wanted to work with you. Show these prices. Don't just give them, say I'm only going to do it for $5,000. This is what we all do. Steve does it all the time. Not for profits. This is what we're charging, but for a wedding, for the bar mitzvah, for all that, there's a different level. Don't be afraid to charge for your services. It took me a long time to learn that, but Steve nailed it. Don't be afraid to charge.
Yeah, I had to learn that also. The other thing you want to make sure is that when you're doing, I'm sure Michael gets into this all the time, as many of you do as well. People ask us to sign NDAs, and especially with social media today, make sure that you have permission to show photographs of your work. Don't just post it online, especially for all of you creative types, photography, particular. Ask, get it in writing. Do we have permission to show these images post-event? Don't show anything pre-event either. Wait until something is done. So.
But
yes.
Steve, that combining the two thoughts, that's a very important thing for anything that is discounted or on occasion donated. Make sure that your benefits include the opportunity to say that you did it.
Yes.
To be able to post it, promote it, you have the rights to the images in your case and so on. Somebody's asking you for something free. Well, you need to get something out of that in exchange, retail value. Make sure it's equal.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have a question?
I do. I have an event space, and I'm a little new at the event side of the space. It's a rock climbing Ninja Warrior space, but it's kind of funky. I'm having a question on tipping and the service tacked onto the total job. How does the industry deal with that?
You know, Michael, you want to address that? I mean, I'm not at the event, so I'm not involved with tips.
I'll be honest with you, I'd rather go back to the DNC side of this, and that because you're working a lot with hotels and things like that, restaurants with tax and gratuity on there. Is a place like that able to put something like that on?
So I think the biggest thing with any service, any contract, is that we want to see it up front. So if you're charging a gratuity or a service fee, it needs to be included from the start as a specific percentage. But I know one of the things that we run into too is if it's a service fee, if it's an administrative fee, call it that. If it's a gratuity, identify that it is in fact going to the
So
staff.
line item each.
Absolutely line item. Because the thing that I can't do, once you've given me a price, and then I've passed that along to my client, and then you tell me afterwards that there's a gratuity that's being attached to it, now I'm in a bad spot because I can't go back to my client and say there's an additional charge.
Got it.
There are some suppliers in our industry who say it's a discretionary gratuity. So a lot of caterers will say it's your choice as to whether or not to pay an additional gratuity. And in the contract, it will delineate that. It'll say, you know, on our invoice, you're going to see the opportunity to pay you know, a suggested gratuity and so on. And it's very clear that then that's up to us. But you can't go back to them afterwards and say, well, why didn't you pay gratuity? So if your staff is expecting to work for tips, then that needs to be in your contract right from the beginning.
And is it a percentage of the sale of the, so let's say it's a $10,000 event, are you gonna charge somebody 20% on that? And that's
So
gonna
every
be
venue's a
related?
little bit different. You know, I would suggest looking at, you know, what staff are you talking about that's going to be gratuitized? Not that that's really a word, but there you go. Say it with confidence. You know, and make that clear. I never argue with a gratuity on a line item if it's very clear to me what it's for and who's getting it. If it's a vague 20% gratuity and it doesn't establish exactly who it goes to and how that's getting paid out, I don't want to pay it. Because to me, that's probably just going in the owner's pocket and it's another way to make more money. The other thing that for corporate events we often object to is tip jars. So if your expectation...
Social events too.
Yeah. You know, so if the expectation is that you're not charging gratuity in lieu of your staff being able to put out a tip jar, include that. And then probably what I would say is, I don't want the tip jar, so let's talk about what we're gonna pay in advance, or what cash we're gonna bring on
Do
site.
you just bundle it into the actual price, or do you?
I would
have-
much rather see it line up.
That's, okay.
Yeah,
That's how
In
you
the
do it
proposal
too.
as well.
oh yeah, absolutely. You know, the worst thing that you can do is add something after the fact.
No, I was more thinking that I'm always paying out to people and not necessarily charging the client for this.
I would put it as a line item.
And so.
And you can
charge-
also, you can put in there that, you know, staff gratuity not included, or you can put something in there where you don't have to bundle it into a service fee, but you let the client know that, you know, usually when it's written in there, the client knows to tip the
Right.
staff, and they would. And then on the social side of it, as a social planner, what I do is, yes, most caterers and venues will have that kind of built in to their administrative fee or service fee or whatever they call it. But the first conversation I have with a client in a consultation, when we talk about budget, when we have our first planning meeting, we talk about budget, I talk about gratuities and I have it as a line item in the budget because that's something they don't think about. And I give them a chart, like a spreadsheet of who should be tipped and the suggested amount based on industry standard. And then that's part of the budget and they're planned for it, and then they prepare the envelopes ahead of time and everything. So I tell my client, I tell them up front, add this in your budget because it's gonna come, and people don't think about it at the time.
And I would also check with your CPA or your lawyer. I'm not as familiar with New Jersey law, but I know in New York, some gratuities are taxable.
Yeah, in New Jersey, a gratuity is taxable if it's in with another fee. So if you're gonna line item a gratuity, you cannot tax it. If you wanna put it in as your administrative fee and say that gratuity is part of this administrative fee, let's say 18% is gratuity, 4% is a service fee, then it's taxable.
That's why it's listed as taxable too.
Right.
Yeah.
So just make sure, because you can, if you don't do it properly and you get audited,
Right.
it'll end up costing you more than.
Okay.
And people
this is a
question it
really
anyway.
great- Thank you
But
very
something
much.
Donna just said, that I do it all the time. If we're doing a large event where we're doing everything, we put in gratuity, there's a line item. Like 5,000, 10,000, 15, what's this for? Here's the breakdown.
Yep.
Oh, you're giving the catering staff $5,000? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
having a staff of 100 people here today. Yeah, that's not a lot of money. Think about that, so don't be afraid.
Thank you.
And especially for a venue like yours, people probably don't realize how many staff you have involved in an event. So literally identifying how many staff are associated with that gratuity helps us understand what that percentage or what that flat fee is for.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so we found out that Michael
I've
Fish is,
I've been to parties at your facility because I live nearby, and I can tell you, your staff works hard, and you should get compensated. Yeah.
Stephanie's gonna host our November ILEA meeting, so if anyone wants to see her
Do I need
space,
to wear
come.
sneakers?
And by the way, this is a perfect example of networking.
Yeah, this is awesome.
it is,
This is
okay,
really
yes, sir.
awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify on the picture reference to taking pictures. I've done a lot of weddings at Cipriani's. Some clients don't want their picture shown, so make sure that you know what picture they want. Some just want only decor and not of the individuals or people in the party. Just make sure you take a look at that, please.
Yes, sir.
So, famous historian David McCullough said that little of consequence was ever achieved alone. Can you speak to the collegiality of ILEA, like the community of competition aspect of it?
Can you break that down to English?
Harvard Business School guy.
Oh, okay, well, we're not, I lost a lot of brain cells over the years, Matt, but, I think that what Mac brings up is a good point. It wasn't, a topic for my conversation, tonight, but what I'm trying to do, let's say at my nonprofits night out event, or what we have at the ILEA events, something I speak to, David Fletcher about a great deal, is that there is enough business for everybody. Take a deep breath, relax, be ethical with your coworkers. There is no one job, if you don't get it, that you're going to wind up having to eat cat food the next day. This is, a large market. It's the New York, New Jersey. It's a tri-state market. If you don't get a job today, another opportunity comes tomorrow. Just, be ethical to your coworkers. Get to know your competitors. There are times that you're doing an event, maybe Donna's doing a wedding, she can only do a certain number of events on a weekend. There may be somebody else that she can refer for it. But when I have my nonprofits night out event, I invite all of my competitors to attend. We've been trying to create a community of peers where people that all do the same thing can relax and enjoy working with each other, refer each other business, and do so in an ethical fashion. Every once in a while, we eat a bad apple. There are a few out there, I'm sure you all had that experience. But for the most part, we're nice people, and there's no reason that we can't refer business to other planners, to other invitation companies, other DJs as needed. So that's what Matt's point is, and it's an excellent one. I don't know where the David McCullough thing came in from, but okay. All right, so. Any other questions? We now know that Michael Cervelli tips his wait staff $5 a head.
5,100?
What? Well, no, it's my math. It's Jewish math. We always round down. You know that. Okay. Well, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I just have a really quick story about the value of our time.
Sure.
I got a random call from a television producer who did a Google search in this area for flowers. We do full service event decor, but a lot of flowers as well. And they're doing a wedding for a sort of famous couple that will be on television. And she tried to convince me that if I took this job, basically without charging, that I would benefit from the TV time. And I said, well, how am I going to pay my staff? How am I going to get everyone there? I'm expected to purchase the flowers, and I mean, it was almost insane. So we've gone back and forth several times, and I'm really kind of proud of myself that I stood up. I haven't done that a lot, and I said, I'm going to pass on this because I'm not going to be out of pocket for a lot of money. And the TV time, it's great, my Instagram would blow up, but to try to get a job out of that was devaluing.
You know, we all look at projects like that, and that's part of entrepreneurial ability. You know, every once in a while, we all take shots at those things, but when we do, we have to say, what is the media? What is the TV show? What is, you know, who is it reaching? Who is the celebrity? You know, is it an A celebrity? Is it a B celebrity? Is it a celebrity that may be very well known that you don't even want to affiliate with? You know, I mean, you get that too. I mean, I did a wedding for somebody very famous where after the wedding I was allowed to show the invitation from my showroom, but they didn't want me to put it on social media. Just stuff like that, you know. So yeah, each one of these we have to evaluate based on, if it's really expensive, don't do it. If you could do something at a relatively nominal cost and you think it might benefit you, yeah, then we all try it.
Well, I got them to agree to at least pay the costs.
Wow, that's great. That's better than I ever did. I'm going to go work for you. Okay. All right. So I thank all of you. Lisa, do you want to take the mic? Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Steve.